We've all seen it happen, right? Someone gets insulted, and instead of blowing up, they just go completely still. Today, we're going to dive deep into the incredible psychology behind that quiet power. So just think about it for a second. When someone really provokes you, what's your first gut reaction? Do you feel that flash of heat, that urge to snap back? Or do you find yourself going completely quiet? That split-second choice, well, that's at the very heart of what we're talking about today. You've probably heard some version of this before, and wow, does it have a ring of truth to it. There's something genuinely unnerving, almost intimidating, about a person who can take a verbal hit and not even flinch. It defies our expectations of how these things are supposed to play out. And that really brings us to our big question. What's the deal with that silence? Is it a sign of weakness, that they're just too scared to fight back? Or is it something else entirely, a kind of hidden superpower? We're about to unpack the science and the strategy to find out. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to bust the myth of weakness. Then, we'll get into the actual brain science behind it all, uncover the strategic power that silence holds. And finally, we'll figure out the huge difference between true mastery and just being numb. All right, let's jump right in by tackling what most people think. See, when someone stays silent, our brains just rush to fill in the blanks. And you know what? Most of the time, we get it completely wrong. We might look at them and think, wow, they're so cold and detached. Or maybe we see it as weakness, right? Like they're just too afraid to stand up for themselves. Or worse, we assume they're just unhealthily bottling everything up. But these quick judgments, they really miss the bigger, much more fascinating picture. So why do we expect a big reaction in the first place? Well, it all comes down to something called pecking order logic. It's this deep evolutionary thing. Insults have been used for ages as social tools to figure out who's on top. When someone throws an insult your way, they're basically trying to knock you down a peg on the social ladder. By not fighting back, you're not just being quiet, you're refusing to even play their game. And here's where it gets really cool. This isn't just some social theory, it's backed by hard science. The ability to stay calm under fire isn't about being an emotionless robot. It's actually a sign of a highly efficient, well-trained brain. The scientific name for this skill is emotional regulation. And let me tell you, it's way more than just willpower. Think of it as a sophisticated executive function, kind of like complex problem solving. It's what allows you to manage your internal world, no matter how chaotic things get on the outside. Let's take a peek under the hood. So, your amygdala, that's your brain's fire alarm. It screams, threat, the second an insult lands. But in a well-regulated brain, the prefrontal cortex, or PFC, immediately steps in. It's the CEO, the brakes, and it sends a signal telling the amygdala, hey, stand down, we got this. And the ACC? That's the gear shifter, helping you move from a knee-jerk reaction to a thoughtful response. It's a pretty amazing internal control system. But, and this is a big but, not all composure is the same. People get there in two main ways. On one hand, you have expressive suppression. That's just hiding the anger you already feel. It's reactive and it actually jacks up your internal stress. But then you have cognitive reappraisal. Now this is the master skill. It's proactively changing how you see the insult in the first place, so that powerful negative feeling never even gets a chance to take root. And the key difference here is speed. It's literally a race inside your head. Cognitive reappraisal happens almost instantly. We're talking in under 5 seconds, before that emotional wave even has a chance to crest. Suppression, that's the much slower, more stressful attempt to build a dam after the flood has already been unleashed. What's fueling all this amazing brain science? It's a core psychological belief called an internal locus of control. This is the rock-solid conviction that you and only you are the captain of your own emotional ship. When you truly believe this, you don't need anyone else's approval to know your worth. So an insult, which is really just someone else's opinion, it just has no power over you. And we can actually see this reflected in certain personality types. People who are naturally non-reactive, they tend to score really high in emotional stability, which means they're just naturally calm and resilient. They're also often high in conscientiousness, they're thoughtful, they're disciplined, and they have this balanced agreeableness. They're not pushovers, not at all, but they also don't go looking for a fight. Okay, so we've covered what's happening on the inside. Now for the twist. This internal mastery translates into some serious external power. Because that calm, quiet response, it isn't just a defense, it's a shockingly effective offense. This is where we completely flip the script on what silence means. It is not weakness. It's a strategic move called a detachment response. You're making a conscious choice to completely disengage from the aggressor's game, and by refusing to react, you instantly and totally seize control of the situation. A silent, calm response sends a whole cascade of powerful messages without you ever saying a word. It screams self-respect. It completely destabilizes the attacker because they were counting on your reaction to feel powerful. And it projects this quiet authority that says, I am in control here. For a manipulator, this is an absolute nightmare. They have no idea what to do next. This isn't some new age idea. The ancient Stoics had this down to a science. They had this brilliant 3-step protocol. First, check the substance. Is there any truth to the insult? If so, great. It's just feedback you can use. Second, check the source. Is this person's opinion actually worth anything to you? And third, check your own impulse to get angry, because they saw that feeling as a sign that you'd already let the other person win. The Stoic philosopher Seneca just nailed it. He said, the most contemptuous form of revenge is to not deem one's adversary worth taking vengeance upon. I mean, wow. The ultimate power move is simply deciding that the person who insulted you isn't even worth the energy of a response. But before we wrap up, we have to make one final, absolutely critical distinction. Because true mastery is not the same thing as just being numb, and it is so important to know the difference. The goal, the healthy state we're talking about, is what's called equanimity. It's mindful, it's accepting, and it's good for you. This is a world away from suppression, which we know is stressful, or dissociation, which is a kind of numbing often linked to trauma, or just plain old avoidance. One is a highly developed skill, the others are just unhealthy ways of coping. So, if you only remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. True non-reactivity isn't about feeling nothing. The person who stays calm still feels the sting of that insult. The difference is they have mastered the art of processing that feeling without letting it control them. It is the absolute pinnacle of emotional strength. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you see someone stay completely silent in the face of an attack, what are you going to see? Will you still see weakness? Or will you recognize the quiet confidence of a master who already won the battle before it even began?